Justin, how are you doing today?
Good, Logan. How are you today, sir?
I am great. It is a wonderful Thursday morning. We are in Web3 and it is anarchy out here. Justin, who are we going to be talking to today? What are we going to be talking about?
We are talking to Sammy Kareem from BNB Chain, which of course used to be BSC Chain. It is Binance's. It is one of the world's largest community-driven decentralized blockchain. They're looking to create sort of a multi-chain world and to onboard 1 billion users. They've got a humble goal of building up to 1 billion users. With a B, yes. That's
right.
mainstreaming, baby. B for mainstreaming. What is your hat? I'm gonna be distracted all day by
about it. It says this is not financial advice.
That's funny.
Yes, it covers all the bases always, can never take it off, and I could just say whatever I want now. Just kidding. All right, Justin, I am super excited to learn more about BNB Chain. So we got Sammy backstage. I'm going to bring him on right now. Welcome to Benzinga, Sammy. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Logan. Hey, Justin. Great to be here.
Hey, Sammy. Good to talk to you again. How are you?
Doing well, sir. Yourself?
Good, thanks. We're really glad to have you on the show. So BNB has had, you have a new brand going into this year. I mean, sometime around March where you did the rebranding, or was it a little bit closer to January? And you've added some functionality from what I understand. Most specifically, supporting DeFi, adding smart contract functionality to your own platform. And now you're working with liquidity pools. Tell me a little bit about what you're up to and what the brand change is about.
Yeah. So it's been a busy few weeks for us, and we did the rebrand. So the rebrand was driven by a number of factors. I think one was really for the BNB chain infrastructure to be much more closely coupled to BNB, and then more loosely coupled to Binance. Because at the time when we launched what was previously called Binance Smart Chain or BSC, we didn't really think about the name as all. We just we spent pretty much zero time thinking about what the name and brand and stuff like that would be, because at the time we were just like experimenting. We're thinking about like what's the type of infrastructure that developers and users will find useful, or like what's currently like underserved. So that was the main focus really. But I think now we reached a point where it just made more sense to kind of do it at this point. So that's been one of the things that's been keeping us busy. I think went pretty well and smooth. Then we also announced our technology roadmap. So the main thing there is that it's one of the key questions that we're continuously thinking about, is like, what's the type of infrastructure required that will enable developers to build applications that will reach tens of millions, then hundreds of millions, then eventually 1 billion users. I think we're like so far away from that today. So, and there's a lot of limitations from an infrastructure perspective, and we saw a lot of those firsthand in the last year through the experience of just seeing BNB chain scaling, like a lot of patterns with like very fast user growth. And I think at the peak, BNB chain is supporting somewhere north of like 2 million daily active addresses or daily active users. So it's the highest among all the layer 1 chains, but it's still not that big, especially if, like, considering where we want to go. And even with this 2 million users on chain, or just a little bit more, I would say the current chain capacity is probably like half, or reaching like above half. So if we want to reach tens of millions of users, we need to really like rethink what are the type of chain architectures that can support that. And we've seen a lot of good like experiments and successful ones as well, like Axie Infinity building Axie Infinity on Ronin, or that idea of the single chain. We saw working really well, especially for games, which has this kind of rapid scaling on the user side. Also, they will like probably consume enough of the network within its own chain, network capacity from its own chain. So that's the first thing that we're doing right now, is launching what's called BAS, the BNB chain application side chains. And it's a very similar idea to the application chain. It's like basically how Axie users, Ronin game developers in the BNB blockchain ecosystem will be able to use their own BNB application sidechains. Will have like a lot of different properties, like more suitable for games. So transaction fees, as an example, the current transaction fees on BNB chain is like 30 cents per transaction. And on the application sidechains, they can be gasless, so like the users don't even need to pay transaction fees, or they can be like small fractions of a cent. Plus, the transaction fees can also be denominated in the token of the native token for a gaming project, for example. What doesn't have to be it won't be BNB like what like currently on the current BNB chain. Of course, all the transaction fees and staking is denominated in BNB, but in the application side chains, that's not going to be the case.
Sammy, you mentioned
So that's
BSC was an experiment. What were some of the biggest takeaways from that experiment?
yeah, it was really, believe it or not, was really like an experiment. We never had this like big like plan around having like the largest number of users or anything like that. It was just kind of like thinking about what's the type of things that developers will find useful. And at the time, like obviously DeFi summer was in full effect back in September 2020. And then like all of the DeFi activity was happening on ETH. And obviously we saw like all the time, like transaction fees like above 50 cents or 100, like $50, $100 even or more. So obviously it was not like accessible for all users, was also not really like, I would say, very affordable for developers there, even like on deploying contracts or doing anything there just becomes like more like just expensive. But I think the big lessons was that we really underestimated the level of underserved demand. We knew there was going to be like demand that's being priced out by these high transaction fees, but we like our imagination wasn't enough to like really understand how big that grew. But also last year was like a massive expansionary year for like all of crypto, with like a lot of new users coming into crypto using decentralized apps for the first time. So all of these kind of like alternative layer one infrastructures and ecosystems, I think also is like helping to drive more user growth, like just bring more new users into crypto. Whether those users are using DeFi, gaming, or whatever it might be, doesn't really matter as much. But I think it's really about like how do we kind of scale that type of lower cost infrastructure. So I would say like our imagination wasn't enough. That was one of the biggest lessons we learned. And I think the other part was really around how we want to prioritize support, especially like, or being like just super careful with our how we're spending our resources, including our time.
But of course, you started off without the smart contract functionality built in. So obviously you're pivoting toward that. I imagine NFTs are another thing that you're having to kind of pivot and adjust to. I haven't seen a breakout recently about the amount of DeFi activity going on being specific to NFTs, but clearly NFT activity has grown enormously. So what is Binance doing? I guess your Binance Foundation, right? The BNB is run by the foundation. What are you doing to pivot to being able to handle that whole new cohort of users coming in from the mainstream and from all over the place?
Yeah, that's a good question. So definitely, like we're continuing to see like huge amount of growth and also even more potential on the type of like business model innovation and other types of improvements that NFTs will help to accelerate in a number of different domains. Like gaming is the most prominent one, I think, is like talked about a lot. And we are like, for us, we see gaming as like one of the very high priority areas we're investing very significantly in. But I think there we're also like, from our perspective, we're thinking a lot about the developer tooling, the underlying infrastructure. What are the kind of big friction points in a user onboarding journey? Like if there's going to be non-crypto native users, what does that like onboarding experience look like for them? Where's the big friction points, and how can we look at how to like support development of solutions that improve these barriers for new users? So those are the kind of areas that we're super focused on.
I love to ask. I asked this question of you when I was writing for my column. And I'll ask again. It's one of my favorite questions to ask all alternative DeFi networks, because I feel like it's reflective of where your average user might come from. So Fortnite, when are we going to have blockchain Fortnite? I've heard about. I'm actually like I'm a bit of a gamer. I'm a bit of a game dev on the side, right? So I
Nice.
want to know. I'm developing an MMO. When are you going to be able to support? Right now, we're talking about 1 million users a day, maybe 2 million users a day. That'd be a slow day on Fortnite, I imagine. Even Axie Infinity is using proprietary servers to handle some of the load graphically. But like I can almost not conceive of a more brutal use case than doing a game, supporting a game like that. But when you're talking about 1 billion users, I mean that's where we're going, right? How are we going to do it? I know that you've got this interoperability thing in mind.
Yeah, I think there's a number of different, and it's right. Like I think current chain infrastructure is a lot of the underlying today, a lot of the underlying infrastructure today. I don't think is ready today to handle this kind of number of users. But there's a lot of improvements happening across different areas where where the challenges are. So I think like the on-chain part, there's a lot of great things happening there around like new types of infrastructure that can support these large types of user scaling from an infrastructure perspective, but there's other areas, non-crypto, like non-blockchain related, also that today, that I think the technology and a lot of these areas are still not able to reach the kind of level that Fortnite needs for having like this huge amount of like concurrent users, huge amount of daily, weekly active, like however you want to cut it up, basically like huge user bases. But there's also stuff like the graphics processing and so many other areas where there's still like a lot of um, technology development required to be able to just perform and operate better. But we're definitely getting there. We do see a lot of great teams that are working on designing new computing systems around graphics processing, like physics engines and all these other types of things that will be required to power these types of like metaverse experience, also like large MMO games and other types of things like that as well. But I think from the blockchain infrastructure perspective as well, there's like, I think, huge improvements that have happened over the last year. So I think from the timing perspective, we probably get there quick. I'm not sure what like a number on quick might mean. Could be we see one game this year that could reach like very large number of users, but I think within the next 2 to 3 years for sure. Like I'll be surprised if it doesn't happen within that time frame. But we do
2
see
to
like
3
quite a lot
years. Wow.
good games that are building like let's say the crypto Fortnite, like really fun, engaging games and stuff like that. But the underlying mechanics, like game assets you can trade on open marketplaces, all the kind of things that you can't really do in any of the big games in any of the big games today. So I think that part is coming sooner than later.
Sammy, right now there's this narrative around, alternative chains are competing chains. I tend to think long term there will be enough demand for blockchain applications to fill the space on all of these different chains. But each, chain has its trade-offs that make it better or worse for specific applications. So take it 10 years down the road, where do you see, the BNB chain fitting in on that spectrum? What type of applications will be most likely to call the BNB chain home?
A very good question. So I agree with you on this part as well about the competition. I think some layer ones, they do see like there's some element of competition there, but the competition is mainly because there's not enough quality developers in the space. They're like competing over like developer mindshare.
Yep.
So there, I think also that part is kind of like expected or natural, but I think it's going to be more about like, I think this alt layer one or just having more infrastructure choices for developers will just help to accelerate crypto adoption generally. So it's like overall a good thing. I think even that competitive nature or competitive aspect is also good in a way because it just helps push people faster. I think like people in crypto anyway is working like at crazy speeds compared to any other industry, but like that competitive nature also I think helps to drive things to happen a bit faster as well, which is also great. um, yeah, so I think from our perspective, we're like really focused around more on the core infrastructure side. Like we try to iterate on, because I don't think there is any general consensus in the communities around what's the best chain architecture. Like, is it EVM chain or is it like just a chain with get forks that are like running POS consensus algorithms, so they're just faster and cheaper. There's tons of those today, obviously. So we're trying to like scale that part, because I think BNB Chain will be and is a general purpose blockchain. So it's like well suited for certain types of use cases, and you can probably see that it's probably well represented in the today's landscape. So like large amount of DeFi stuff. There's like gaming. There's like social impact use cases. Like more traditional financial services stuff like bond issuances, real estate tokenization, all of these type of things, like the longer tail, I would say, like of the use cases. And then we'll also look at like more specialized infrastructure, like this, like the application side chains that I mentioned, the BAS chains, just more suited for gaming. So we know, like speaking to a lot of game developer teams, game studios and others, have like kind of an understanding about the common requirements that all of these game developers are looking at from chain infrastructure perspective, and look at how we can like through the community develop and then help to scale those as well. Because I think that that part is also super challenging. Like the other types of infrastructure required, like our node RPC infrastructure, can be a big bottleneck for, especially for a lot of the EVM chains, which probably most users don't really see. They don't really see the complexity or the challenges of like running this type, the node infrastructure required for dApps, which are reaching even hundreds of thousands of users. Not even talking about low millions of users yet, but even at these kind of small, that at that level, still quite difficult. So kind of also shows like we still got pretty long way to go. But yeah, I think there's a lot of great engineering teams that are gaining like very significant expertise as we're moving along.
Awesome. If you're just tuning in from live trading, I see we just got about 300 new viewers here in the stream. This is Web3 Anarchy. Today we are talking to Binance, more specifically the BNB chain, and Sammy, the business and ecosystem development director. Sammy, could you tell us a little bit about your background in just 1 second, right after everyone smashes the like button? And also I have to let everybody know we'll be hopping in a Twitter space to keep the conversation going afterwards. So make sure if you want to chat with us, you get in there on the Benzinga account afterwards.
Yeah.
But Sammy,
we'll have like a little after show. Everyone should come and join us for the party.
Exactly. So Sammy, how did you get into crypto?
Yeah, so I've been at Binance, I think getting close to 2 years now. So I was part of the Genesis team that helped to launch and then scale BNB Chain. Before Binance, I was at Consensus for a couple of years, working in their solutions group, doing like supporting clients and partners, developing use cases across like broad range of different industries, everything from like financial services, healthcare, sports and entertainment, and then a whole bunch of other things. And then before crypto, I was doing like really boring stuff in like enterprise IT world, which thankfully I'll likely don't have to do again.
Web3 is much more fun.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I want to know a little bit about the ecosystem. I mean, obviously, BNB Chain has the advantage of being. I mean, I can understand the need to differentiate the brand from Binance, but it has an advantage in that BNB Chain still gets a lot more attention than Justin Chain if I were to try to launch it tomorrow, because you happen to have the most popular exchange out there. Not that Justin Chain is going to be great. Just wait for it, guys. I'll get it as soon as Ethereum 2 is fully launched. No, I'm just kidding. Around the same time, though. What I want to know is what are the most popular apps in your ecosystem, particularly for the folks out there who, no secret, are looking for passive earning and hedge farming opportunities. Where's your sushi swap? What's hot on BNB right now that people can use?
Yeah, so there's a large and like very vibrant DeFi ecosystem there. So PancakeSwap is the largest AMM DEX on BNB Chain. So I think has the largest number of users among any DeFi application. And they do like trading. There's a bunch of features on there, including they do like initial token public sales, like they called IFOs. There's lotteries, like NFT marketplace, a whole bunch of things in PancakeSwap. So they have like a huge and like rapidly growing community. I think also like pretty interesting thing happened for PancakeSwap this past week, which was I think big news for all of crypto, because we've talked a little bit about CDeFi. So like there's I think two big groups of users today in crypto, like the people that are comfortable custodying their own keys, and then will do stuff themselves on DeFi and like all of these kind of things. But of course, that's not like accessible for everyone. Like even if people can technically do it, doesn't mean that they do want to like have that custody risk themselves and so many other factors. So you got like the self-custody guys, and then a much bigger amount of like just let's say centralized exchange users. But a lot of them don't want to custody their own keys for many reasons. Like some of them just it's not like super accessible for everyone to be able to generate their keys securely, store their seed phrase and keys from the point of generation securely. There's like we see all the time on like crypto Twitter and like all loads of other places, people getting phished for their MetaMask seed phrases, or and sometimes the level of sophistications of these attacks is like super high. So it's even for experienced users like do become impacted or victims for these types of phishing attacks quite regularly. So for many of these reasons and more as well, there's a lot of users that don't want to custody their own keys at all. So the idea of CDeFi is giving people in the centralized exchanges access to DeFi stuff.
Right.
So Binance.com launched its first huge initiative in the CDeFi space, which is basically the launch of two things. One is the DeFi wallet inside Binance.com app. So users can set up a DeFi wallet. It's basically a non-custodial wallet that users can restore into any other Web3 wallet using the seed phrase. But the seed phrase is encrypted. Like you can upload it to cloud encrypted and then also like restore it while it's encrypted. But the other big thing is after this DeFi wallet, which is kind of like the underlying infrastructure to make all the CDeFi things happening, the first really big CDeFi app is PancakeSwap mini app, which is available inside. So Binance.com app users can access PancakeSwap today. So it's this kind of the first experiment around CDeFi. And we're going to see more of this, I'm sure, where it's like allowing the centralized exchange users the ability to trade on permissionless dexes, which they did, like this is literally happening for the first time starting this week. And then like now started with the dexes, but later like you were asking about the other apps or projects on BNB Chain. PancakeSwap is the largest dex, but another large DeFi protocol is called Venus. It's a lending protocol, so you could expect to see like Venus coming soon into the Binance app as a mini app, and then later other DeFi protocols, maybe other crypto games as well. But that's kind of the direction where this CDeFi thing is going. It will be super interesting to see how it plays out.
Very cool. We've only got about 5 minutes left before we go to the Q&A at the end. I want to give you an opportunity because it's something that involves the community to talk a little bit about the hackathon that's coming up. I know it's global. I think it's running until May 10th, something like that. Here, I'll go ahead and flash the. Sorry, that was Justin's fault. Sorry, Logan did that. Sorry, guys. I tried to cover for him, but no, that's completely Justin's company. Here, hold on a second. Here we go. So BNB Chain Revelation Hackathon. It's global. It's running until May. Up to, I think you have $10 million in funding and prizes, and everyone can participate. Tell me a little bit about it. What are you guys looking for?
Yeah, so we're super excited to kick off this. Is this the inaugural one called Revelations, a global hackathon? But it's the first. So we're planning to do these every quarter. But the first one we just kicked off a couple of days ago. It offers like up to $10 million in prizes and seed funding. So the key dates, we kicked it off this week. And it's running until May the 10th. So it's going to be like a hybrid event. It's going to be online, a bunch of online stuff, like the typical online hackathon type of things you'd expect, like tech workshops, mentorship times, like a lot of those kind of things. And then we're also going to have in-person, like IRL community meetups in a bunch of countries around the world as well. So there's 6 tracks in the hackathon: disruptive DeFi, innovative infrastructure, frontier technology, MetaFi, DAOs and decentralized communities, and blockchain for good. So there's 6 tracks, and there'll be 3 winners in each track. So the prize funding in each of the tracks, like $100,000, plus other prizes from other sponsors that like, so we have a great network of highly valued sponsors that are like helping to make this whole thing happen. And then like bunch of bounties within each track. So there's like, it's really about get the community together, like the builder community, all the developer guys, like the marketing, all the like we want to try. We welcome like people from all backgrounds, not only developers but like everyone else as well. And then get everybody together, get the team started, like share direction about what's the kind of areas they need to be thinking about. And it's the basic things, like we want to encourage teams to build things that are solving big problems and like do something that like not a lot of other people are trying to do as well. So those kind of things, we like support them to that teams if they're at that stage, get the ideas like well thought out, and then just get started at building, like just ship stuff fast. If it doesn't work out, if it doesn't work the initial versions, no problem, you just like keep iterating until you get out. So like, yeah, providing like loads of different types of support to the developer community, like get more developers into the ecosystem, building projects that are going to solve a lot of the challenges around like what's like stopping or limiting user growth, or like any of these other big challenges that we really like want to like show the full potential of what could happen with Web3 and crypto.
Sammy, I think one of the biggest things stopping potential user growth is that, we all think crypto is cool, blockchain is cool, but a lot of people out there don't know why, they should even take the time to look it up, or take the time to, put in the hours required to actually, learn and start making moves on their own. What do you tell these people, generally, what should they do to, get their first piece of crypto education and then their first piece of like crypto safety education?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think now I think we're like moving so fast along this adoption curve that it's like just a lot more people just generally interested in crypto. The type of resources available also are really good. The access points are getting much better, like a lot of things. But I think generally is thinking about like the evolution of the internet, so we had like just the read-only internet, just like static web pages, then moved to Web 2, which was like interactive internet, like user generated content, like made this like completely new architecture for communication and like connecting the whole world. But it was architected on centralized systems, which created like other areas of centralization, including like power and so many other things that we've seen these things being abused through the centralization. And now with like Web3 technologies, we have for the first time like natively digital money, plus the ability to do things like self-sovereign identity and so many other like really important use cases. But like we are still even like 13 years in at this point, still at really early stages, especially if you want to look at like what's happening underneath the hood, and you see that actually a lot of things are like held together by like really bad scotch tape or whatever, so like needs like, but like those big problems are big opportunities. So the developers that are like start working on these, they're gonna provide great value for the whole world and do really well themselves as well.
Right, perfect. Well, Logan, we're at about that time. So, you want to give a little bit of instruction, taking us over to our Twitter after party and Q&A?
Most definitely. So first things first, Bitcoin is at $43,800. It has ripped during this conversation. So congrats everyone who didn't sell. We're going to be moving over to Twitter Spaces now at Benzinga. You can also follow Justin and myself with our handles. We're going to be hopping into the space. Sammy, I'd love to have you join us. I'd love to have the BNB Chain account co-host it so we can get everybody from both audiences out there. If you guys want to come ask questions to any of us, just chat about crypto, NFTs, keep it going. Hop on over to the Twitter space right now.
And Alyssa just posted the link, so you can just click on the link in comments.
Boom. Link is in the chat. Sammy, thank you so much. Is there anywhere that the people can go to connect with you and follow you other than what I just mentioned?
Yeah, on Twitter, my Twitter handle is at crypto, but the T is a 7. So it's like C, crypt, not a T, 7 O Maxi, Crypto Maxi. Yeah, the T is a 7. Just
Awesome.
find me.
I just followed you, so I'll make sure to get you up on the space if you're able to tune in.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody on the Benzinga YouTube. Hope to talk to you soon. This has been Web3 Anarchy, BNB Chain. Peace out.